When it comes to cleaning up intersecting geometry, we are not limited to only rounded and sharp corners. AutoCAD also allows us to create beveled corners. In this lesson, we'll look at the workflow behind the chamfer command. On my screen I have some geometry that represents a typical screwdriver. We'll be using the chamfer command to finish this drawing. We'll start by zooming in on the top middle of the handle. On the left I have a finished example of what this corner should look like. To clean up this geometry, we'll use the chamfer command. Chamfer is a modification tool, so we can find it in the Modify panel of the ribbon. It shares the same flyout menu as the fillet command. In fact, the chamfer workflow is identical to fillet. When you launch the command, AutoCAD just wants you to pick your first line and then your second line, and it will create the beveled corner. Instead of setting a radius, since this isn't round, we have to insert our angular measurements a different way. There are two methods to do this, the distance method and the angle method. We're going to look at a distance method first. I'll select distance down here at the command line, and then for my first chamfer distance, I'll enter 0.1. For my second chamfer distance, I'll enter 0.15. The measurements that I've put in represent the distance from the corner to where my chamfer starts and where it ends. I'll now select my two lines. The order in which I select the lines depends on the order in which I entered the measurements. I'll select the top edge first. This represented my measurement of 0.1. I'll then select the front edge. It represents a measurement of 0.15, and when I do, AutoCAD creates the chamfer. Let's zoom out a little. I'll pan the drawing up and I'm going to press my spacebar to re-enter the chamfer command. AutoCAD remembers all of the previous settings, so I'll click this bottom edge and then the front edge to apply the chamfer to the other side. So we would use a distance method anytime we know the measurements from where our chamfer starts to where it ends. Let's create another chamfer. This time we'll look at the angular method. I'll launch the chamfer command, I'll come down and choose angle. To create the chamfer for this corner, my chamfer length on the first line is going to be 0.1 and my chamfer angle will be 45. That happens to be the default. So I'll press enter to accept the value. Once again I'll select my lines in the order in which I entered my measurements. This back edge represents my measurement of 0.1. AutoCAD is going to measure 0.1 up from this corner, and when I select this bottom edge, AutoCAD will turn 45 degrees and chamfer the corner. Let's relaunch the chamfer command. I'll click the back edge and the top edge to chamfer the other side. Next I'm going to pan down to the tip of the screwdriver. Let's zoom out a little bit. Based on the measurements we have here, it looks like this is going to be the distance method. I'll launch the chamfer command. I'll select distance. My first chamfer distance will be 0.6, second chamfer distance will be 0.07, enter. I will then click the 0.6 side first, and then the 0.07 side. I'll press the spacebar to relaunch chamfer, and I'll grab the top edge and the front edge to chamfer the other side. Now that I'm finished, I'm going to create a window around this example geometry, and I'll press delete. I will also select this example geometry. I'll remove it as well. Let's pan down to the other side of the other end of the screwdriver. Once again I have an example of what the end of the handle should look like. If I select this geometry, it's a polyline. This geometry was created using the rectangle command. It was then trimmed on this left side. Since the chamfer command is virtually identical to the fillet command, it also has a polyline option. So I'm going to launch chamfer based on my measurements. I'm going to use the angle method. The chamfer length on the first line will be 0.4, and then I'll press enter to accept the 45-degree angle. I will then come down and choose polyline, and I'll click my polyline to apply the chamfer to both corners. Now that I'm finished, I'll select my example geometry and I'll press delete. Finally, I'll double click the mouse wheel to do a zoom extents and view the entire drawing. So in the event your design calls for a beveled corner, try using the chamfer command. Its multiple creation methods and fillet-like workflow make it the easiest way to construct an angular intersection.